All right, I'm in the brewery today. We're going to start kegging the beer that you guys have been watching me brew and ferment. I've already got some kegs and stuff set out and ready to go. I'll show you my sanitizing, how I clean everything up and do it. There's been a lot of interest in this, so I think I'm going to do kind of a tasting and maybe a weekly tasting and a pour for my kind of how I do my lagering and show people. But next weekend I will be back with some of my normal content, and we'll be over camped out at the Oregon coast for the weekend for Memorial. So should be pretty interesting, some fishing and just normal stuff that we like to do. Here's a couple kegs that I've picked out that I'm going to fill. I'm going to crack them open here in a second and put some Starzan in them and get them all sterilized and clean. The secondary's been running for a week, actually a little over a week at 50 degrees, and all the fermentation is completely stopped. My final gravity, I think, was right around 1.007. Didn't change much, so I don't think it had very much more fermenting to do this week, so it's pretty much ready to go. I've got a CO2 tank that's set up and ready, and we're going to pump in a couple pounds, well, probably not even that, a half a pound of pressure into this in order to push the beer into the kegs. And then the kegs I'll daisy chain, so it'll fill up the first one and then start pouring into the second one, and then I'll have an overflow bucket set up next to it, and then once it starts pouring out, I'll just shut the system down. I'll be pretty much full, and the fermenter should be completely empty. Here's some of the stuff that I'm going to be using. I'm also going to go through and clean all this. I like to use a screen just in case that I've got some whatever trub and yeast and stuff that might be still in the system, hops, and it'll filter out some of those bigger clumps and stuff so that it doesn't end up settling in my kegs. There'll still be some sediment after it lagers in the refrigerator for a month, but it'll help keep it to a minimum. So I'm going to start getting this stuff cleaned up now. Alright, I just finished rinsing everything down with Starzan. Got everything good. I'm going to give it a few minutes, let it dry a little bit, and finish dripping. And then we will start setting up the daisy chain. We got my other hoses and stuff right there. Start hooking everything up and getting the beer flowing. Alright, I'm getting ready to hook up the CO2 line to pressurize this tank. I'm just connecting it to the line right here. This is where my gas, the excess CO2 from fermenting, purged down into this jar of Starzan. And so I'm just going to undo this quick connect right here, compression, and our sanitary fitting, and hook up. I've got one already hooked up to a CO2 line, and I'm going to just do back purge with CO2 to right there. So I've already kind of purged the line of CO2 to make sure that it's good and clean, and I'm just going to shut this valve off right here for the time being until I make my connection. I got my keg sealed back up. Everything's good and clean. I'm going to give them a shot of CO2 and purge the air out of each one, and to make sure that I don't got any leaks. I'll just do this a few times on each one of them. And that'll just make sure that a good majority of the oxygen is out of the system. even if there is still a little bit of oxygen or air in it, the CO2 is heavier than the air, so it'll put kind of a blanket on top of the beer, a cushion, and when the beer fills up, it'll purge the remaining air out of it. So we should be good. Everything looked good and sealed, and should be ready. So I got all my lines hooked up. I like to put this little screen filter in upside down just like this, so that when I'm done and I'm disconnecting my lines, I can drain everything into a bucket, and it just makes it a little bit easier to clean everything out. So the way I got this connected is this valve has got a tube, a dip tube that's in there that's pointed down a little bit, and it keeps you out of the sediment and stuff in the bottom, which there shouldn't be a whole lot in there, but if it does suck up a little bit, it'll get stopped by this screen. So then it comes through this hose, and then it's pumping in, or being pressurized in, through the out tube, or the dip tube of the tank, so that the beer is not just splashing down in there. And then when this keg slowly fills up, the beer will start coming out the inlet, the gas side of the keg. It'll come through this tube, and then it does the same thing then into this keg. It fills through the outflow, or where the beer would be coming out, and then whatever excess when this keg gets filled will come through this here, which is the CO2 in, and then it'll just go into a 5-gallon bucket. And as soon as I hit that point right there, then I shut everything down. Alright, we got the beer flowing. I should have lubed up the gasket in my screen before I put it all together. It's a really thick, real hard gasket that's in it. It doesn't seal real great, so you can see I've got a little bit of a drip, but we should be okay. It's all under pressure, so it shouldn't be sucking in any air or oxygen, so I think we'll be okay. It's flowing. You can see the color for the first time now, and it looks really, really good. I mean, it's already, you can see how clear the beer is. I'm going through the line, and this will clear up even more through the weeks to come or whatever when I start doing some pours. So it'll be a few minutes, and this keg here, it's already almost 3/4 full, and it'll start flowing over into the next one. So it should start here any minute. So actually, well, I can see my pressure gauge is starting to read a little bit, so I'm going to shut my CO2 off for a second and just let it run that pressure down. I want this to go just kind of as slow as possible and not stir up any sediment in the bottom. Oh, there we go. First keg is full, and now it's starting to overflow into the second one. We'll have them both full here in just a few minutes. So if I carbonated inside my fermenter, I built a homemade, I guess, a spudding valve, just a pressure release valve with just a pressure gauge on it so I can see what the pressure is, and I can just attach it to the end of this hose that's down there, and I can keep the system pressurized so I don't lose any of my carbonation when I'm doing it, and it works pretty good. I like to attach this to a long length of hose though, so that if the beer overflows the keg and starts flowing through the line, it gives me time to disconnect it and keeps any beer from flowing through this. But you got to kind of pay attention when you're doing that. Alright, the second keg just filled up. You can see my overflow in the bottom of my bucket. So now I'll start just unhooking all my lines and getting these thrown in the chiller, and then start tearing this all down and cleaning. That's the fun part. Alright, I got the top off of it. You can see I got a layer of gunk in here. I like to try to clean that gunk off with a sponge and get kind of a head start on cleaning. I do have a cleaning ball that I'll install, and I'll run the pump with a little bit of cleaner and some hot water, and I'll let it run for a half an hour, 45 minutes, and then I'll start rinsing everything out. You can hear the ball in there running, and it's spraying down the walls and cleaning. I got it hooked up to my pump down there on my mash stand. The pump's a little bit on the small side, that's why I've got to kind of get in there and clean some of the gunk and stuff out ahead of time. It would work a lot better with a bigger one, and I had a bigger pump at one time, but it finally, I wore it out and had to get a new one, and it ended up just kind of skimping on one of the cheaper ones. But it works for what I need. Just lots of PBW and hot water, and I'm going to let it sit and run for probably a good 30-40 minutes, and it'll rinse everything down real good, and I'll just start kind of rinsing it out with fresh water after that. Alright, I'm pretty much all done for today. I've got the fermenter all tore down. I'm going to clean around a few of these fittings and stuff in here to make sure they're good and clean. There's no gunk left in them, but it should be pretty much ready to go for storage. Got a sink full of parts that I'm going to soak and clean probably tomorrow. I'll let them sit for a little bit and make sure all the gunk and stuff is cleaned out of them. So pretty successful. The beer, actually I'll show you real quick. I've gotten the fridge. I'll let it sit and chill overnight, and then I'll go ahead and force carbonate it. And the way I usually do that is I'll just set my CO2 regulator to 30 pounds, and then I'll sit and roll it or shake it on its side for 3 minutes. And then I'll let it sit and kind of stabilize for a little bit, bleed off the excess pressure if there is any, and then just start my pressure needed for pouring, and go from there. And it'll smooth out after a while, and it gets a little bit better, the carbonation on it. And then here in probably a week or so, I'll do a little pour and a short video on it and show you guys what it looks like. But as what I could see going through the lines, it was already really, really good and clear, so pretty happy with it. So there again, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I had a lot of interest in this type of stuff, so I might be throwing in some extra brewing videos every once in a while. And but next week, like I said, I'll have my normal content. We'll be out doing some camping and doing some outdoor stuff, so it should be fun. And hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Bye.